Now, is there a potential link between the mass murders and illegal firearms? One forensic expert seems to think there is. And earlier we spoke to a community member in the Eastern Cape who also cast the spotlight on intelligence gathering as possibly being one of the challenges. Remember, the Eastern Cape has seen quite a number of mass shootings. Calvin Rafadi, who is the forensic investigator, joins us live now. Good evening to you and thank you so much for your time. You say that there's possibly a link between these mass murders and illegal firearms. Elaborate for us.
Good evening, Bongiwe. Yes, indeed. The method used or the weapon used in this particular crimes is mostly a firearm. So we know that there are a lot of firearms out there, and they are roaming around the streets. They are cheap to be bought and ends up in the hands of these criminals and syndicates. So the instrument that is being used is indeed a firearm.
Now, when it comes to this issue of illegal firearms, for example, it often pops up when we talk about this issue of crime. But is there enough being done in terms of a strategy to ensure that these guns are taken off the streets?
I'll say no, there isn't enough done. Police are overwhelmed, and they are the only, statures that we rely on them to root out these firearms and apprehend them from the criminals. But what we can say is, that's why we always say that places that already the threat analysis has been done, like your Cape Flats, Lusikisiki, and many others, Westbury, where you find a gun in every 5 minutes, if not every 1 minute, somebody's firing a gun or shooting at someone. We need to call on state of emergency. Now, what the state of emergency does is that it gives the police the right to do extended search and seizure, stop and searches of vehicles. They even can search even churches, mountains, rivers, you name it, because of, we believe and heard from even some of our sources, they say no, some of the AK-47s, they will hide them inside the river. And once there's such extended search and seizure, the police can even go and search in those rivers. And besides that, it allows them on those operations when there's a state of emergency to now have a wing of the SANDF to help them in doing so.
Do you think that's a possibility, though?
Yes, no, there is a possibility. All they have to do is the government has to declare this as a state of emergency, because already it's a serious pandemic, and everybody's trying to thumbsuck and shifting the blame to the other. So if that can happen, it gives them the right now to have your NIU, Amaberet, TRTs, your public order policing, including military and private security, to now go and root out the firearms from every corner of the society where the threat has been analyzed already.
So I ask this, Calvin, against the backdrop of what we've seen in that province. For example, we saw what became a huge concern around extortionists. And then at the same time, we are now here with mass murders. It's not the first time. We've seen them as well again, even in the previous year. So when one looks at how these particular issues that are being raised by communities as a serious concern have been handled, do you think that there is a possibility that even those who are in charge could be moving towards what you're suggesting?
No, they should. I mean, they must listen to the advice. The act is there. It allows them to do that. So why we don't opt for that? I mean, especially that communities, they fear for their lives. Communities, they've got information, but they cannot give anybody this type of information. We've seen on, the extortion line that has been established that they get many hoax calls. So it shows that even the criminals, perhaps it's them who are trying to frustrate such process or such, measures. But what we can say is we are dealing with cult here. We need to go and get those guns through the state of emergency. But parallelly, we must also deal with, abuse of alcohol and drugs that are in our societies roaming around the street. But at the same time, we also need to regulate churches which are not regulated, and even traditional leaders which are not licensed or which are not regulated, because we believe they give certain injunctions that you kill 2 people, you become lucky, or certain of these criminals, they even perform rituals at the end of the day to this particular unscrutinous traditional leaders or healers.
Yeah, and would you say that there is enough or even sufficient intelligence gathering to try and also tackle this as well?
Look, intelligence is there, but we are always told that it's gone missing. Let's take, for instance, Eastern Cape. They don't have a head of intelligence there. Everybody's acting on that position. And why they don't fix and have a permanent head of intelligence, we do not know the politics. But the moral of the officials of crime intelligence somehow is affected by such measures. So we need to act decisively and look into that particular space as well. And, a very important question was also asked in Parliament, whereby they asked, what is this 3,000 or 3,500, the reward for, cracking down of information or receiving information on syndicates? What is this 3,500 that is being paid to informants? Because you cannot infiltrate such high number of criminals, including those in cash in transit, just for a reward of 3,500.
And so if none of these, suggested solutions that you're putting forward as the possible solutions here are implemented, what is at risk for these communities?
We'll see more people, being affected by such crimes. And, these criminals, they move from one area to another. But how do they move with guns when we are told that roadblocks are being set up? So we do not know. That's why we need this state of emergency. We need this stop and searches because of, they move from one community to another community. We might wake up this coming weekend or even tomorrow that another place, there's mass shooting. But how do they get to those places? Where are the police not searching them? So we're not blaming the police, but we are saying let's put this type of measures and deal decisively. We've done such measures during the COVID, where it was an emergency and military was brought in and laws were enforced. So let's do it and save our communities from this pandemic.
All right, Calvin, thank you so much for your time. And let's see then how do they respond to some of what you've proposed tonight. It'll be interesting to hear from, the police and whether or not this is something that they can consider. That is Calvin Rafadi, the forensic investigator.